Hello everyone, today's video this is going to be a double review talk. I'm not going to have time to do a solo video on both Rob Zombies Halloween Remakes. I figured let's talk about both Halloween Rob Zombies remakes into one video. After Halloween Resurrection's failure, rumors about a possible Halloween 9 were up in the air, and there was no script at the time after Resurrection. Then internet rumors began floating around about Josh Hartnett was originally planning to reprise his role as John Tate for another film titled Halloween Retribution, where he seeks revenge for his mother's death. Also, an early treatment also included the character Sheriff Lee Brackett, who joined his quest for revenge, since Michael Myers killed his daughter Annie in the first movie. The critical backlash, along with the film ultimately flopping at the box office, and executive producer Mustafa Akkad's death in 2005 killed off any plans for another follow-up sequel to Halloween Resurrection. The next film will be Rob Zombies Halloween Remake. Halloween Night did not go forward after the death of Mustafa Akkad, the founder of the Halloween franchise, after when John Carpenter left the franchise to him after he left. There was also rumors about the possibility of a Pinhead vs. Michael Myers movie, with John Carpenter possibly directing the film and Clive Barker writing the story. As cool as that sounds, especially two horror iconic legends working on a movie together would have sounded awesome. But this concept could have gone either way. Imagine Michael Myers as a Cenobite. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can imagine that. Pinhead and Michael Myers are two completely different horror characters. Pinhead is not even a slasher villain. Whichever direction they would have went with this movie, I still would have watched it anyway for the fun of it. After the moderate success of Freddy vs. Jason, Dimension Studios wanted that same success pairing up two horror iconic legends together to fight. For what my friend Christian told me why this idea did not go forward when he met Doug Bradley at a convention, the actor who played Pinhead, he said the story was not there and the writers were not taking it seriously. Also, in the second book I have in the Halloween movies, Taking the Shape 2, the Lost Halloween sequels, they have a chapter dedicated why this movie was never made. Mustafa Akkad said he was not feeling up to this idea. At this point in time, they decided to go the remake route for the Halloween franchise. Before I dive into this video, I'm not sure how true and accurate this is. There were also rumors at the time they wanted to make a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason. They wanted Michael Myers in the fight, but they could not get the rights to Michael Myers. Now this could have been cool and awesome. Freddy, Jason, and Michael fighting each other. Three big iconic horror legends. Also that book I read too, they said that Robert Englund wanted to have like him and just Michael Myers fight, or maybe there was going to be a possibility of like Michael versus Jason. The Halloween 2007 remake was directed by Rob Zombie, who was a famous heavy metal musician prior to this, directed horror movies like House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. He's a hit or miss director. For me personally, his movies are just not for me. I don't think he's the worst film director. His movies are an acquired taste and a little bit over the top for me. I like his music. When watching him in interviews, he seems like a cool, chill, down-to-earth, nice guy. Believe it or not, if I had the opportunity, I would love to meet him, sit down, have dinner with him, and talk about horror movies for hours. I haven't seen his latest movies other than the Munch's prequel/remake that he did 2 years ago. I saw House of a Thousand Corpses once as a teen when I first started getting into horror movies. Devil's Rejects was just too much for me to handle, and I didn't have the stomach for those movies. Despite not being the biggest fan of his movies, I do give him some credit to this movie. This movie for me is hit or miss for me. It's like I'm 50-50, back and forth, seeing the highs and the lows for this movie. Things I liked, other things did not work for me, which I'll explain in this video. I remember this movie came out when I was just starting high school at the time, but around that time I was still not into horror movies yet. Heck, I did not know or realize this was a remake. I thought this was a follow-up sequel, it was a little bit more bloodier and gore. As a teenager seeing the trailer, I'm like, holy cow, they amped up the violence. I did not think much of the word remake at the time. I used to think every movie franchise was in the same continuity and universe. To start off with, that I was not crazy about with this movie were the performances. In one example is Scout Taylor Compton as Laurie Strode. I found her too skanky, I found her bland and annoying as Laurie Strode. The part where she puts her finger in the bagel was stupid. That ruins bagels for me. But besides her, the other performances in this movie are hit or miss. The other teen characters are just not that interesting. The actress who played Linda stunk, at least she got a beard this time. Tommy Doyle was a little brat and annoying. He drives Laurie crazy. In the original, Tommy and Laura had a nice bond. They were like brother and sister. Judy from Spy Kids is in this movie, and As a teenager watches, I'm like, it's Junie from Spy Kids! He's the first victim killed by Michael Myers in this movie. Seeing this movie ruins my childhood. He curses and trash talks. But he gets it when Michael Myers kills him. As E-Rod the Blockbuster Joe, he killed him because he's not a fan of Robert Rodriguez. On a side note, I used to watch E-Rod the Blockbuster Buster a lot in high school in my early college years. I was attracted to his name. We had the same taste in movies, comic books, DC animated movies, and he also got me to watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. His death scene is brutal, torture, bloody, and damn, he gets his ass kicked. Speaking of Spy Kids, Danny Trejo Machete is in this movie. He plays a gent that looks after Michael Myers at the Smith Grove Insane Asylum like an uncle. After finding him kill security guards, Danny Trejo forgot his machete at home. Despite looking after for him and sticking up for Michael, he still had no choice but to kill him. It's one of the rare times I've rooted for Michael Myers to kill people. It makes Michael Myers an anti-hero for 5 seconds. He killed a bunch of piece of shit lowlives who raped one of the female patients at the asylum. Michael Myers looks like he's on steroids. In the original, he was just a regular tall, thin guy. In this movie, they made him look like a giant wrestler on WWE. But then again, he was played by Tyler Mane, who played Sabretooth from the first X-Men movie. What the heck did they feed him to decide that man looked that big and tall? I did like the scene when Michael Myers finds the mask at his old home, puts on. That's a cool shot. But the mask, I can take it or leave. I'm too spoiled with the original Michael Myers mask. The mask looked like it was run over. The kid actor who played Michael Myers was alright, but boy was he a sick kid. He had a lot of issues. Malcolm McDowell was alright as Dr. Loomis, but he's no Donald Pleasence. At the same time, I get it. He was trying to make Dr. Loomis his own, and yes, I know Donald Pleasence was long gone when this movie was made. Not only was this movie a remake, it was a semi-prequel showing how Dr. Loomis had a hard time treating Michael Myers and trying to help him. This part was alright, but I don't think it was not explored done well, and it's not mysterious as it could have been. We see how Loomis did try to help Michael Myers, but Michael Myers shut him out, and he didn't want to be helped. Michael Myers doesn't talk to Loomis or speak anymore in general. He's good and okay Loomis, but he's not memorable as Donald Pleasence. That's just my opinion. Believe it or not, the actress who played Little Jenny in Forrest Gump is in this movie as Michael Myers' older sister. As a teenager watching, I did not see the connection. Sherry Moon Zombie, Rob Zombie's wife, who I'm not too crazy about as an actress. This is one of the few things I did like her as Michael Myers' mother. You felt bad for how her whole world is falling apart after her son killed her boyfriend, her daughter, and her daughter's boyfriend. When she leaves visiting her son, Michael Myers killed one of the nurses, but to be honest, the nurse was a bitch. It felt like if Nurse Ratched was murdered. Despite all the abuse by her mean boyfriend, she was not a bad mother. You also felt bad she had no idea about Michael's abuse towards animals, not knowing the signs of her son will one day grow up to be a serial killer. And I hate to say her daughter was also a bit of a escape, but no excuse on Michael Myers killing her. After the pain and tragedy, she falls into a deep depression. She kills herself. Despite Michael Myers killing her mom's boyfriend, but he was a piece of shit and a prick. As I'm watching, I'm asking myself, how the heck did she end up with a low-life piece of shit like this guy? And why did she bother to take care of him? He's mean, rude, abusive, a drunk, and he makes sexual remarks at her daughter. I'm not a woman or a mother. If I was one, if I had a boyfriend who talked that way about my daughter, I'd give him a beating he'll never forget. In the original Halloween, we don't know anything about Michael Myers' parents. We only saw them for a brief second when they found Michael with a kitchen knife, seeing their daughter was killed. They seem like an okay average middle-class family in the original Halloween movie. In this movie, they are very dysfunctional. Despite not being the biggest Rob Zombie fan, I give him credit for employing a lot of good character actors who deserve a lot more attention. Ken Foree. I met Ken Foree in Pennsylvania at a drive-in movie theater where they were showing the original Dawn of the Dead at the drive-in in Pennsylvania. Danielle Harris, Brad Dourif, Chucky. This is close to get to Chucky versus Michael Myers. Ha! Clint Howard, Dee Wallace, E.T.'s mom, heck. I did not recognize her when I first saw this movie as a teen. Bill Moseley and Sid Haig, again. I didn't even recognize him in this movie as a graveyard caretaker. I forgot to mention that Adrian Barbeau's in this movie for a small part. Rob Zombie is the kind of director that employs character actors. You'll never see him employ Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio, or Denzel Washington. I know Udo Kier is in this movie, but his scenes were cut. I'm not sure if his scenes are used in the other cut or not. I'm aware there are two different cuts of this movie. I didn't watch both cuts, I just watched one of the cuts. I didn't want to make this video into which Rob Zombie Halloween remake cut was better video. I never imagined I'd see Danielle Harris back in the Halloween series after her departure from Halloween 5. It shocked me to see her in this movie. Also, around the time after getting into the Halloween franchise, I was curious about other things she did outside the franchise, like The Last Boy Scout, Don't Tell Your Mom the Babysitter is Dead. She was a goth chick in one of the Urban Legend movies, and she was on Roseanne. I like Danielle Harris, but as personal preference, I like her as Jamie Lloyd. If they made the 2018 Halloween follow-up sequel ignoring the sequels, then let's make a follow-up to either Halloween 4 or 5. Why not? I like a better storyline conclusion on Jamie Lloyd. Again, no disrespect to Danielle Harris. I like her as an actress, but I find her character forgetful in this movie. I'm not invested in her character. She acts inappropriately in front of the kids. I won't say what happened, just go watch it. When I met Danielle Harris, I did not tell her I disliked the Rob Zombie Halloween remakes. I didn't want to be a jerk saying that to her. But I did ask her a nice, politely question about, did she ever imagine coming back to the franchise after her departure from Halloween 5? She said no. She was surprised when she got the phone call asking to come back for the Halloween remakes with Rob Zombie. Despite playing a teenager, she was in her late 20s playing Annie. We saw Paul this time. Unlike Annie the original, gets killed by Michael Myers in the car when she was on her way to go pick up Paul for sex. In this movie, Michael Myers tries to kill her while she had sex with her boyfriend Paul. Good chance for Annie's kill scene, but she survives, almost being killed by Michael Myers. Hey, I'm always glad to see Danielle Harris survive in horror movies and not be killed. The thing that prevents me from not liking this movie, it's not really a Halloween movie feel to it, it's more of a Rob Zombie feel. And I get it, this is a remake, two different styles of filmmakers between John Carpenter and Rob Zombie. Carpenter's style is Hitchcock, and Zombie's more of the low-budget grindhouse, exploitation, low-light, bad-mouth, white trash, piece of shit garbages. The music score is okay, but it's no John Carpenter. Again, I get it. It's a remake. They probably had to make their own score version of Halloween. I guess Zombie could not get the music rights to the original Halloween score from John Carpenter, and yet he got permission from John Carpenter to remake Halloween. You all remember when I did a video on Rob Zombie's Munch's prequel, link in the description on that. I mentioned I was the very first PG Rob Zombie movie, which is very unusual. As a teenager watching this movie, I didn't like it. Rewatching, well, I don't hate or love it. It's not a go-to Halloween movie for me to watch. It was not a shot-for-shot remake like some remakes can be, like the Psycho remake, for example. But when they redo famous scenes or lines paying tribute to the original, I'm thinking of how the original did it so much better. This is another mixed movie. Some people like it, or some who love the original, like me, are not into this movie. For example, they watched the original Thing from Another World on television, and that was a foreshadow to John Carpenter directing the remake to The Thing a few years later. I see the point, this is a tribute, but this is a remake. I wish Rob Zombie used a different horror movie. Although Michael Myers' mom's boyfriend is sleeping, Michael comes in, and Bela Lugosi's White Zombie is playing on television. A reference to Rob Zombie's band name Inspiration. The final scene when Loomis saves Laurie from Michael Myers, Laurie asks, "Was that the boogeyman?" And he tells her, as a matter of fact, it was. It just didn't feel natural or organic to me like the original. This is a movie I rarely watch. I'm just not a fan of this style like with the original Halloween, where it felt realistic and believable. This movie came out around the time when the 2000s was the decade of horror remakes. Despite there were a lot of crappy horror remakes in the 2000s, surprising to say this was bad, but it's not one of the worst horror remakes I've seen in my life. I know, this is coming from someone who's not the biggest fan of this movie. I don't hate this movie, I'm just not into it as much as other people are. If you like this movie, that's fine. Don't let me stop you from watching it and loving it. Sometimes not everything is for everybody. Just like the It remakes, past generations don't like the remakes for a particular reason, because they grew up on the original, which is understanding, it's nostalgia. Same with the original 1970 Halloween remake. It's a movie when I go back to rewatch for its rare occasions. As a teenager, I bashed this movie. As I've gotten older, I've semi-warmed up to this movie. I do see some good highlights, but the bad highlights is what prevents me from enjoying this movie. Sorry, it happens. Probably as I grew up and saw the original first, way before the remake came out. As I said in my Halloween video, the first movie had a huge impact on me and made me the horror fan that I am today. The first Halloween will always have a special place in my heart. Now on to Halloween 2, the second Rob Zombie Halloween movie, and a reboot to Halloween 2 from 1981. Despite Rob Zombie's Halloween remake getting a mixed reception, it was surprisingly hit at the box office. But even Rob Zombie originally did not want to do a sequel, thinking that directing one Halloween movie was enough for him. Rob Zombie is the second director to direct more than one Halloween movie, along with Rick Rosenthal. He was basically pressured by the studio to make another Halloween movie. I'm not saying this part is true. You can point out debate that Rob Zombie was purposely tanking the movie. If people thought the last Halloween remake was bad, this one is worse than the last one. I know there's two cuts of this movie, but honestly, I did not watch both cuts. I'm not worried about comparing either one. I just stood with one cut of this movie. I haven't seen this movie since high school. I was a junior in high school when this movie came out back in 2009. But I did not see this in the movie theaters when it came out. I saw this on YouTube back when you watched movies online for free before you had to pay for some YouTube movie subscriptions. At the time, it was a movie I watched once, and I moved on. I didn't think twice about going back to revisit until now for this video. This is my second viewing for this video. My first thought was, Rob Zombie is now going to copy the original Halloween 2, but surprisingly he did change the movie up, but honestly, this movie failed. Michael Myers looked like a hobo, and if Gandalf was on the wrong set of a different movie. As James Rolfe says, he looked like Rob Zombie. He only has one scene wearing his mask, but it was only in a dream sequence where they copy a little original Halloween 2 scenes at the hospital. Throughout the rest of the movie, he does not wear the mask, or sometimes he does, but it's all ripped and torn up. This is the one that ruins the movie for me. It's like if Batman and Spider-Man did not wear their mask. Not seeing Michael Myers wear his famous iconic mask doesn't feel like a Halloween movie to me. It's never a Michael Myers movie without his famous iconic mask. But I do know in one of the cuts, Michael Myers speaks for the first time ever. His first line is "die," which makes sense. That would be the first line Michael Myers would say. Despite not liking Scout Taylor Compton in the last movie's Laurie Strode, in this movie, she's semi-slightly improved. We see how she's traumatized after the first movie. She has PTSD, and we see how she lives with her friend Annie and her dad Sheriff Brackett. But she's not getting along with Annie since she moved in. She's in therapy and does not seem to be working. She has a lot of anxiety, her medicine is not working, and she keeps asking for something else, but a therapist can only prescribe what is necessary. Laurie Strode looks like a goth punk rock girl in a heavy metal band. Also, the concept of Laurie Strode suffering from PTSD, depression, alcohol addiction, trauma was done better in the old series in H2O. After she finds out she's the sister of Michael Myers, she basically does not care anymore. She lets her ego get in the way. She goes to a Halloween party with her friends dressed up as Rocky Horror Picture Show characters. She gets drunk and parties like it's her last night on Earth. Laurie and Annie fight like sisters in the last movie. They were best friends, not in this movie. Annie tries to help Laurie, but Laurie keeps pushing her away. Since when did Dr. Loomis care about fame or publicity? Dr. Loomis wanted to stop Michael Myers and make sure everyone was safe. When he's at a seminar doing a Q&A, he says I'm not a psychic Sherlock Holmes playing Superman. And what's ironic about him saying that, Malcolm McDowell did the voice of Mattel in the 90s Superman cartoon. He almost got killed at a book signed by Linda's father. I think he's the one responsible for the Michael Myers victims. Loomis does show remorse and sympathy to the families, but everyone still hates and blaming what happened the previous year. This makes no sense. This part was lame. I hate to say, Loomis is a jerk in this movie. He spends most of the time getting famous and shows up at the end to save the day. They recast the kid actor who played the young Michael Myers in the last movie. Part was because the last kid in the first one was getting taller when they went in production on Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Two actors who were in Batman Begins are in this movie, Flash and Joe Chill. Mark Byrne Jr. plays some random dude with no arc who finds Michael Myers in the middle of the road and beats the crap out of him. Then Michael Myers gets back up and kills him. Richard Brake plays a sick paramedic talking about having sex with a dead corpse. Betsy Roy you might recognize from My Bloody Valentine remake, which came out the same year as this movie, but that was a better movie than this. Despite Mark Broom Jr.'s character kicking the crap out of Michael Myers, she did show some remorse, but of course, Michael Myers still kills her. One of the nurses Michael Myers kills is Octavia Spencer. She was not famous yet at this time, and damn, Michael Myers brutally stabs her to death. Jeff Daniel Phillips and Daniel Roebuck are in this movie, and they're going to be in Rob Zombie's Monsters prequel / reboot and other Rob Zombie movies. I wanted to see Roebuck wearing a Frankenstein monster costume to promote his strip club. He played Grandpa Munster, who was a vampire mad scientist. But I read that Roebuck is a huge fan of the Universal monsters. When he's not wearing the Frankenstein monster mask, he looks like Wolverine with his sideburns, and Wolverine's career went downhill and he aged poorly. Phillips and Roebuck's dialogue would sound like something if Rob Zombie did the Munsters as his usual stereotypical white trash garbages. I don't know why, I thought it was funny when Roebuck tells Phillips to take out the trash, he leaves, and he says in the other room, "Enjoy the herpes, old man." And of course, Michael Myers kills both of them, and damn, he smashes Jeff Daniel Phillips' head like a balloon and kills a stripper and Roebuck. First time I've seen Michael Myers kill a stripper, so much for Roebuck getting laid. Jeff Daniel Phillips plays a second character in this movie, being like Eddie Murphy. He plays a guy dressed up as Coffin Joe performing Halloween at a rock concert. This was obviously a homage to Coffin Joe. Apparently Michael Myers eats a dog. I also get the weird dream sequences of the afterlife of Michael Myers talking to his dead mother as an angel. It feels psychedelic that someone wrote these scenes on drugs. Sherry Moon Zombie's look as an angel of death looks like something from Rob Zombie's music video, Living Dead Girl. Despite not liking this movie, it had some sad, tragic moment scenes like when Sheriff Brackett finds his daughter Annie dead. That's very sad. I'm not a parent, but I can imagine what that's like for a parent to lose their child. I don't blame Sheriff Brackett for hitting Loomis in the face. Laurie crying over losing her friend despite they were having problems, but she still loved Annie. Also, how the heck did they get Weird Al Yankovic for this movie? The ending ripped off Psycho, and there's no answer if Laurie is dead or in a psychic ward. Will she be the next killer? But you know what? Who cares? This movie is just a letdown. It's a messy movie that Rob Zombie intentionally intended to fail because he had no passion and did not want to do this movie. You can say that he was basically director for hire. It's like Rob was sending a message to the studio: I don't care about making another Halloween movie. I just want to make other small movies that don't need sequels or need to be franchise. While I'm not the biggest fan of these two remakes, I give some credit that Rob Zombie did try. After this movie's failure, we did not get another Halloween movie for another 9 years, and little did we know what to expect for the next one. Before Halloween 2018, I thought the franchise was dead and over. But we'll dive more into Halloween 2018 tomorrow. See you next time.